So, EA have now released 2 deep dive videos on the F1 23 game, and I found 8 things that you probably didn't notice when you watched them. Now, I'm not going to cover everything in those deep dive videos because there was a lot of information there, and a lot of it was just stated as fact. There's not really a lot of information to add, so you may as well just go and watch those original deep dive videos if you haven't already. But here's the first thing that you may not have noticed. The new tracks on the game are not laser scanned. The first brand new track, of course, is Las Vegas. Now, this one obviously wasn't laser scanned because it didn't exist when they were developing the game, and I don't think it even still exists now. The race isn't until much later in the year. The only one they used for this was photogrammetry, which is basically using photos to build a 2D or 3D environment. What's a bit more interesting though is Qatar. I'm pronouncing that right now. Now, they used a few different techniques other than photogrammetry, which they also did use, but interestingly, none of them are actually laser scanning. So they use the official FOM CAD data, the computer aided design data, which is, basically the track design, I reckon, the sort of original design, or at least a representation of the original design, but there is no actual laser scanning. They didn't get a vehicle on the track, go around and then scan the 3D environment. That didn't happen with Qatar. The last track it did happen with, interestingly, was Zandvoort, which they released a few years ago, and they actually used LiDAR for that, which is sort of a form of laser scanning. Interesting, these 2 new ones they haven't, and most interesting there is Qatar, because they could have done that one, but they opted not to. This video is sponsored by the Ugreen 6-in-1 dock for Steam Deck. I've had a Steam Deck for some time, but until now I've not been able to use my Steam Deck with my TV, so I'm really grateful for Ugreen for sending this over. And the Ugreen 6-in-1 dock works absolutely flawlessly, transforming my Steam Deck into a fully fledged game console at either 4K 60Hz or even 1080p 240Hz via the HDMI port. But that's not the only port. It's got gigabit Ethernet, as well as 3 5 gigabits per second USB ports to support a whole plethora of devices. It also has USB-C power delivery pass-through for rapid charging, supporting up to 100 watts of power, so you'll never run out of charge while you're docked. To set it up, all you do is plug it in. It really is as easy as that. The Steam Deck works great with so many peripherals, and this one is no exception. It works as if it was made by Steam themselves. Not only does it add functionality, but it looks great as well, with the perfect length USB-C cable to connect to the Steam Deck. It also sits at a really nice angle, so you can even use it unconnected to play on the go, as long as you've just got a hard surface to put the dock on. So if you've got a Steam Deck with no dock, I highly recommend you buy the Ugreen 6-in-1 dock with the link down in the description. The versatility of the Steam Deck really makes this a worthwhile purchase. Now, the second thing you may not have noticed from the F1 deep dive trailers was the red flags. Now, obviously you noticed the red flags, but there's a few details there that you may have missed. The first one of which is that you will teleport back to the pits when a red flag gets called. What you notice is when a red flag gets called, at the top of the screen there's a timer that counts down. I think it goes from 5 to 0, and when it hits 0, you just teleport back to the pits effectively. So you won't be driving back to the pits. There's a few other points under this red flag feature. The first of which is how they're triggered. Now, they are triggered by extreme weather, which is not all that surprising. Also by incidents, so cars stuck on track and debris on track. But interestingly, in addition to those, they say and more.
A variety of things can trigger a red flag, like debris on track, cars stopping on track, extreme wet conditions, and more.
Now, very occasionally, you might get a protester walk on a track and stuff, but surely that's not going to be in the game. So I'm not sure what the and more refers to here. Maybe let me know down in the comments if you've got some ideas of what more could trigger a red flag for this. The only thing I can think of possibly is that in the Breaking Point 2 story mode, there's a red flag triggered, which wouldn't surprise me. In fact, I'd be surprised if there's not a red flag in Breaking Point 2 story mode. But will we see different reasons in the other game modes? We'll have to wait and see. Now, there's a few other smaller things to note here with the red flags. The first of which, it says repair some damage. Now, obviously front wings will be included. You will be able to change your front wing in a red flag. I would love to see floor personally, because that's one that actually does affect the car performance quite a lot. Also, rear wing is another one that seems to happen quite regularly online. So it'd be cool to see, a few more things getting repaired that you can't normally change under normal racing conditions. I believe there will also be some sort of formation lap before the race gets started. This is because if you look on the strategy screen that they present, it says the red flag was called on lap 2 and the race will resume on lap 4. But if you look closely, you're choosing your tyre from lap 3 onwards, a lap before the race resumes. So either that means we'll just go out behind the safety car and the safety car peel in and you'll just get going with a rolling start, or you'll go out and do what is effectively like a normal formation lap, which has been in the game for quite a few years now. I'd have thought it would just be a formation lap, but it's interesting that we will actually be able to drive it, at least according to the strategy screen. Staying on the strategy screen then, I was wondering what that little dotted line was. It's quite a strange shape. It's dotted and flat for the first 2 2 laps, and then it just goes straight down to 0. It had me very confused, but I have figured it out. That is tyre wear. Now, the reason it looks a bit weird is because I think when they captured this, they had tyre wear switched off. Tyres didn't wear at all, and then I suspect they got a puncture, which instantly wears the tyres to 100%, as in you can't use them anymore. Now, that'll actually be quite an interesting one, because you'll get to directly see your line of tyre wear versus the predicted line of tyre wear, so you might change your strategy based around that. Let me know in the comments if any of you figured that out, because it did take me like a good 10 minutes of staring at this dotted line going, what is that? Moving on to the third point then, and that is that F1 World is not pay to win. Now, for those who don't know, F1 World is sort of like My Team, where you have your own car and then you go online with it, and there's all kind of a different kind of upgrade system. There are going to be future videos on F1 World. I won't go into too much detail now. There's a lot to this, and they reveal quite a lot in the deep dive as well. But they are not pay to win. They've been quite clear about this. They say, and I quote, "There are no ways to purchase individual upgrades with real world money." So they're quite clear about that, but also they're quite specific about that. They do also go on to say you can get upgrades through the podium pass, which is the sort of the seasonal tier system. You know what I mean? Where as you level up through the tiers, and you can buy your way through that. So you can buy maybe 5 levels of the podium pass, and maybe in 5 levels time you might unlock something. So there is kind of sort of a way of buying a slight advantage, but it is a very slight advantage. You can just do it normally anyway, and I would be surprised if the things you get in the podium pass are like massive performance upgrades. I could be wrong on that. Another talking point as well is, are they going to introduce loot boxes? Now, of course, we see this in a lot of other games. We see this in Counter-Strike, you see it in FIFA. I don't think there will be loot boxes in this game. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see it in the future. Maybe they'll softly introduce us to F1 World before introducing loot boxes, which of course is a bit more like gambling, a bit more like pay to win. We'll see. Now, the fourth thing that you definitely won't have seen, because it's speculation on my part, will we see some DLC tracks on this game? Now, last year's game, there kind of was, but they just reintroduced older tracks, and they're going to do exactly the same this year's game, but the key difference here is they're coming out at launch. So that's France, China, and Portugal, all tracks that featured in last year's game as updates that came out later on. They're all in at launch this time. On last year's game, they enjoyed releasing them later because it meant there was more content later on to entice you back into the game. Now, the fact that they're not holding them back to do the same thing this time suggests to me that they've got some other things planned to lure you back in with future updates. Now, this may just be F1 World things. This may just, just be entirely based on F1 World. Maybe they're thinking that's enough. But I would be kind of surprised if that's all it is. So if we do see other tracks, what could they be? Well, Hockenheim. F1 2019 was the last F1 game to have Hockenheim in, which is also the same year that China was last in the game. So if China was good enough for the modern games, surely Hockenheim also is. I would love to see Hockenheim. It's a great circuit. I love it. And also possibly Malaysia, another real big fan favourite. That was last in F1 2017. So a couple of years before, but I can see them possibly bringing it back. And if they do, will it be paid? Will it be free? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think they'll bring back Sochi in Russia, just because of obviously the ongoing invasion of Ukraine, all those other things. I don't think they want to get involved with that. And all other tracks from the F1 2013 game or earlier. So I don't think we'll see any other tracks because they've already built 2 brand new tracks for this game. They already redrew a couple of other tracks in Silverstone and Austria. We'll have to wait and see on DLC tracks. I would, though, wager Hockenheim and Malaysia possibly coming later in the year. We'll keep our fingers crossed. The fifth thing you may not have picked up on is, does Breaking Point 2 have multiple endings? It is clear that it's not going to be as linear as the last Breaking Point was on F1 2021. They say, and I quote, "Objectives will have a lasting impact on how a storyline plays out." I don't know. I don't think there'll be different endings, but I do think there'll be slightly different ways of doing things, because what they have said is that the way the objectives works, there's some optional objectives and there's some main objectives. It depends on, I think, your performance level, possibly reputation level as well, as to what your option objectives are. So they could just mean that your objectives differ based on your level.
As you move through the story, your performance and reputation will change based on your actions on and off the track. Your press responses and management decisions can trigger different bonus objectives, and completing or failing those objectives can affect how a certain storyline plays out.
And one final point on this: you can drive as Devon Butler in F1 23 Breaking Point. On the last edition of Breaking Point, you never drove as Devon Butler once, but this time you can drive as him. They showed that in the trailer briefly. We are on board with Devon Butler. We can drive as him for the first time in the story mode. The sixth point now, and we're getting into the slightly nitty-gritty now, is we have had all 8 of the My Team icons confirmed. The ones they've confirmed are Pastor Maldonado, Kamui Kobayashi, Jamie Chadwick, and Nigel Mansell. Interesting, Nigel Mansell last appeared in the F1 games in 2013. And the 4 Breaking Point characters are Devon Butler, Aiden Jackson, Callie Meyer, I think, and I think Casper Ackerman. Obviously, you're going to have the three main characters in the story, Devon, Aiden, and Callie. The only, unless there's a whole character they haven't revealed to us yet, the only person it could be is Casper Ackerman, who doesn't look like he drives in Breaking Point 2, but he was a driver, so it makes sense if he's in Breaking Point 2 anyway to bring him back as a kind of older driver. I mean, look, Nigel Mansell's also in there, so you don't have to be a current driver. So that would be my guess. It will just be the four drivers we've seen in Breaking Point. No big surprise there, but Casper Ackerman is definitely a bit of a guess. The 7th point then is that there will be no PSVR 2 support. They've confirmed on the Steam page that VR is exclusive to PC, which is a bit of a shame with the launch of PSVR 2. I'd have liked to see it on PlayStation. Hopefully we'll see it for F1 24. You know, we don't know, but surely they'll bring it to other platforms. I'll be surprised if it stays PC exclusive forever. We'll have to wait and see on that one, guys. But yeah, definitely no PSVR support for F1 23, unfortunately. And the 8th and final point then is a little nugget I found again on the store pages. It says that you can share your replays with friends. Now, this is brand new. The only way previously to share your replays with friends, certainly on PC, was to copy and paste the replay to, you know, a Google Drive, whatever, and then send it, you know, literally send the physical file. That was the only way to do it before. It seems to say replays, not highlights. So can you send your whole replay file to somebody on your friends list? Or is it just going to be that you'll have them round to your F1 world, like your F1 life before, and that you can just be in like a theater and they just watch it with you and you sort of stream it to them? I don't know. Intriguing though. Will you be able to save send your whole replay file to a friend? We'll have to wait and see. Well, there we go then, guys. That was the 8 things that you probably didn't already know from the F1 23 deep dive videos. Let me know down in the comments what you thought of these, and if you knew all 8, then fair play, especially some of those were a bit of speculation, a bit of putting 2 and 2 together. Fair play to you. I'm sure some of you knew some of them, but surely not all 8. Come on, surely not. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. We've got lots more F1 23 content coming. I've got a handling deep dive coming very, very soon. I've also got some gameplay. It's going to be coming out this Friday at 4 p.m. UK time. Lots and lots of gameplay. I've got access to the F1 23 game. I'll be releasing lots of videos. I can do 3 videos on the main games. Keep an eye on the channel, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.